Hey everybody, John here from IncomeMesh.com, and in today's video we're going to continue on with our homepage building competition between all the major page builders and run some speed tests and check to see which one is the right one for you. So in today's video we're going to continue with the Thrive Architect plugin, and what I've done to prepare for this is I have simply created a blank website here that is running Thrive Apprentice. It is running on the Astra theme as well. There is minimal installed on this website here. We go to our plugins and check out what we have here. We really just have the basic necessities to run Thrive Architect, and you can see here it's running the Astra theme, so it's very fast, very snippy, and not a whole lot going on here. And if you haven't seen any of the previous videos, go ahead and check those out. They'll be in the description below, where you can see all the other outcomes of other projects. But here's one that came out of the Astra theme, or from the Brizzy page builder, so you'll get an idea of what it is that we're going to be building today. It's going to have a hero section that goes down to the margin here, some calls to action, some little icons and blurbs of what I'm offering on my website, as well as some other little just fancy icons and graphics, a blog roll, a little answers to questions. And the goal of this was to give a nice nice overview of different sections that you'd offer on a normal homepage. Offer maybe an opt-in form here, some social sharing icons, and just other natural things. The goal here is to see how easy it is to use these different page builders, how well they perform once built, how quick do they run speed tests. And what we're going to be doing at the end of this video is evaluating Thrive Architect compared to the ones that have already been completed in this series. So far we've done Divi, Breezy, and Gutenberg, so Thrive is today, and then the next video you'll see from me will have the Elementor build as well. So let's waste no time and dive right in. So we have our blank Thrive Architect powered website. Let's go ahead and make a new page. And in this page, we're going to set it up with no sidebar. We're going to make it a full width and contain, so it has a container height. And we're going to disable the title because we don't want to have that there. And we'll just call this Thrive Page Test. And we look through our settings, we should be good to go. We'll go ahead and publish this page. And as we view it, we'll see we have nothing here. So this is our blank canvas. We'll go ahead and edit this with Thrive Architect. Okay, so here we are in the Thrive Architect interface. What we're going to want to do first is just take a look at what we want to do for this first section. We want to have that call to action and little 2-column row with an image and some text here. So let's go ahead and recreate that. First thing we want to do is pull in a background section. One thing I like about Thrive is you can just click on the items and it'll automatically add it to the bottom of the page. That's a nice little helpful thing here. One of the challenges we've had in previous builds is the ability to get rid of this padding that is just by nature brought into Astra. This is a benefit of Thrive because they allow you really full control over what you want to do. So I'm just going to slide this up to the top, and now we have no margin between the menu there and the background section. No problems there. And we'll also stretch this to fit the screen width. That's going to extend the background color all the way there. And if we go to background style, let's go ahead and put in the orange we're going to use for this test. Let me just get my hex color here. Get back here. There you go. And let's add that to my colors just so I can find it easier later on. Okay, so we have the first section there. Let's go ahead and make 2 columns. And what's nice about Thrive as well is I don't need to go and actually make the columns. I'll make them naturally as I'm building. So I want to have a heading and I want to have an image side by side. So if I just drag these side by side, it naturally knows I want to create 2 columns, and it does that for me. So now I'll go ahead and find my image and pull this in, insert into the post, and already we're starting to shape up here pretty well. So what I want to do first off, because this can always kind of get me a little frustrated, is get this alignment working correctly. So what I want to do is look on the layout and position of this image. I see they've put in 20 pixels of padding, or margin I guess it is, here, so I want to remove that. But you see I'm not done yet. So Thrive gives you this breadcrumb trail where I can actually look at the settings of the column that is just outside it. I don't see any margin there, so let me go to the columns outside that, and I see 15 pixels of padding here. So let's go ahead and remove that, and now I have lined this up, looks like directly on it, but it looks like I have maybe a little something still going on here. There we go, I've got 1 pixel of padding that is actually causing that little orange underneath me. Okay, so now I've lined this up correctly. Let's go and take a look at what I want this to say. Perfect tools for your next project. Take that headline, paste it in as plain text. That just makes sure that I don't get any formatting with it. And then I'll have a little, maybe that's an H4 or so down here. So let's add one more heading underneath. And let's make this an H4 and paste this as plain text. So now I have my content here. You'll notice that the color is not what I want it to be, but I'll show you a little trick to make that efficiently fixed. And we'll have a button that just says button. Button here. Buttons is one of those things that I've never been very happy with Thrive. They've always just been more challenging than they're worth to format. I think they're making some big changes with their global styles, but it's one of those pain points that I have with Thrive. So we'll just say learn more. And let's add an icon to it by selecting the button, going to main options, saying add icon, and then you can click on the icon and adjust it to be, let's say, an arrow. I like this arrow, looks nice. And you can also, you should be able to arrow position on the right hand side, so now that looks nice. And let's change this color. I think you'll see what I mean here when I try to make this color change. Let's make it a, gosh, all right, let's make it white, and let's change the text typography here. All right, apply that. Now if I look at my text under typography, I should be able to make the color of my text grayish and bold it. Let's see how we can bold it. Boom. Okay, looks pretty good so far. And okay, so it looks like Thrive is making some improvements to their button functionality. Before, once adjusting that color from the green to the white, if I would hover over it, it would still come back to green because it wouldn't actually affect the hover settings, which are over here. So it looks like they've made that a little bit of an improvement there, which is great. So let's go ahead and align this on the left-hand side. That's the typography. I want the main options to align. One thing you'll find with Thrive is there's only these little sections of settings, but there's so many little details behind getting just the right setting here. Okay, so one challenge here is that we have black on orange. That's not good. So what I can do here is just click anywhere in the section and then go and choose the entire background section here. So now I'm selecting the entire section. And if I go and make any changes to the typography of this entire section, it will cascade all the way through, assuming that I haven't made any specific changes to the elements themselves. So I can go here to the color under typography and change the color of all that text to white. And now we have relatively the effect we're looking for here. Not too bad. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. That's looking pretty good. Let's add a little bit of padding to the background section. It's a little bit too close to the top there for me. So we'll go here and bring it down a little bit. And obviously we're not going to bring down here anymore because that's what we want. But what I don't like is this is a half and half, and it looks like there's just too much orange space here. So what we're going to do is two things. We're going to go to the layout of this image. We're going to lay it out in the center, and we're going to go ahead and take some space from it. So we're looking pretty good there. And last thing I want to do is go to the columns here and make sure that the main option of the columns is that the vertical position is centered. So now we have a nice little center look here. All right, I'll go ahead and give that a pass. This is a pretty easy section to build. Thrive gives you great control over what it is you're doing, but with great control comes great responsibility. All right, so next section is what I love. It's just a simple header. So we'll do a header here. That brought me into the background section, which was not what I wanted. Here's one of the challenges I sometimes have is just getting just the right spot. There we go. So by tapping on it, it brought it underneath the heading section, but I couldn't get it to drag right where I wanted it to. And you'll find that sometimes. See, even now, there we go. If I go to this corner, I can get it underneath there. So that's not very fun. All right, so for this heading, a lot of page builders give you that spacer where you can just explicitly add spacing to it. Thrive doesn't have that element. You can achieve the same goal by giving margin and padding, but I do find it's a little bit harder to necessarily find the setting wherever it is you're looking for. So I can pull this guy down 100 pixels or so, whatever I feel is right there. But I would like Thrive to have that spacing item, so where I don't need to go into all the layout and positions, because there are 8 different layout options here, and then if it's nested within an image, within a column, within columns, within background section, that's 8 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think it is. That's 40 different layout and padding options. That gets unmanageable really quickly. So here we have what I love. So let's go ahead and update that. We're not going to worry too much about making the type font match exactly, because this would be something set by the theme. You can see here, if I go to my main options, the font is inherited by the theme. So I would go into the theme customizer. I could go ahead and, let's say I want to make this like a Google font, and choose, good old fashioned Montserrat. And you can adjust the regular or bold. Let's go and make this very bold and bold it. So you can achieve whatever goal you want there. I don't like making individual font choices on the pages I'm building, because it just it creates kind of this house of cards. If you ever want to change your font type, now you have hundreds of pages to change it on. Not a good idea. All right, so let's go and make the 3 columns here. And I will go ahead and, no, I won't. I was going to bring the columns in, but it's honestly going to be easier for me simply to go ahead and create it once and then duplicate it and add to the same area. What I will do is make a content box. So we'll make a content box, and we're going to build out one of these and then be able to duplicate it at the content box level, which is a nice little Thrive hack that I love so much. So we'll go here and we'll go to image and bring an image into this content box. And the first one we want is that little pie graph. So let's find our pie graph. Here you go. Pull this guy in and insert into the post. And we're going to want this to be center lined. I think if I go to the content box, I can actually go to typography and center line the text. I want to center line everything here, which it looks like it's not letting me do. That's a little unfortunate. I was hoping it would have that option. That would be nice. A little efficiency. But here we go. Okay, we have our icon centered. We're going to choose a header. This is probably going to be like an H3, I believe. So let's go ahead and pull a header in underneath the image, make it an H3, and paste the text. Conversion optimization. And we'll have just some let's do some plain text underneath the heading here. And thank you, Thrive, for your constant reminders. And then under the plain text here, let's just check that we are inheriting our paragraph options here. And let's get this text here. The reason why I choose plain text is sometimes the paragraph setting adds additional spacings and line heights and all of that. And when you're building a page, sometimes you want to have a bit more control. And so that's where the plain text element comes in really handy. And so the last thing we have here, we have a link with an icon, and what we're going to do is just make that a button because it'll save us a little bit of time. We could do this with text and an icon and try to get it aligned just right, but the button just gives us some nice options here. We'll make this a ghost and apply that. We'll go ahead and give it, so master color, we want it to be clear, so we're good there. Apply. We have a hover effect here, so let's go ahead and get rid of that hover effect, where the master color, we want it to still be clear. And we want our text to be that orange, which it looks like it did not save our orange. So let's go ahead and get that one last time. Hopefully we can save. Plus, as favorite, apply. Okay. So hopefully that'll keep that there. And now if we go to our main options here, master color, we still have the white. We want the typography to be, there you are. Okay, so now our typography is there. We want to go ahead and add that icon. So let's give that to the right-hand side. And let's select that arrow again. We'll do a more common arrow. There we go. Okay, so we're looking about right. And it says button, but we'll say read more. Okay, and what we could do, if we want to have a bit more of a hover effect, we could do something like, let's see here. Select the button, go to our hover effect, and maybe under typography, this color here, when it hovers, we maybe want it to be a little bit lighter. So let's do that. So now, if we go back to our normal state, and we hover, you'll see, unfortunately, it doesn't smoothly transition from the unhovered to the hovered state. It looks a little bit, I have to say, a little bit lower quality than some of the other builders. It will nicely kind of fade to that hovered color option, but it still gets the goal accomplished here. So we have, let's just review what we have here. We have the image, the header, the text, and the button. Good. So now the benefit of Thrive is you can just select the entire content box, and anything you build in here will kind of follow the same goal. And obviously you can make this go to whatever page you want it to go to. That's not really the purpose here. So we'll go and duplicate, and you see by naturally it brings it below it. It thinks you want to maintain that single column, but I can select this content box and just drag him to the right of that content box, and boom, now we have 2 columns. So let's go ahead and make the small adjustments here and see what icon we want. We want that page builder icon. So let's find our page builder icon here, replace the image, pull you in, insert, boom, boom. Take our text and take our text here. So you can see Thrive has a lot of efficiency benefits to it. It's really a great builder. There are some things that bother me with it, but you know, that's life. So we're gonna go ahead and I think also at this point, no, you can't just duplicate the column. You're gonna have to duplicate the content box. And again, drag it up here, which will eventually, once we find the right lineup, boom, make our 3rd column here as well. So now we got email marketing. So we'll go and make this email marketing. And here we're going to find our email icon and replace, pull our email icon in, and good to go. Okay, so pretty effective way to build the first row here. So what we can do again is just select, look here, image, content box, column, columns. So we want to take all the columns and just hit the duplicate button and bring that through. Now here's kind of a word of warning. Some page builders have this feature called copy and paste styles or extend styles. Divi has it, Elementor has it, Breezy I think is getting it soon, but at this point Thrive doesn't have that feature. So if you wanted to change maybe the hover color of all these buttons, you really want to make sure you get that right the first time, because it does become a bit of a challenge to copy and paste the styles over and over again once you do this amount of duplication. So just kind of a word of warning there. All right, let's hit our 2nd row here. So we have our simple courses. So we'll take the text of this paragraph section, and paste it in. Call it super simple courses. And this icon here is the icon of a little hat, a little university hat. Put this guy in, very quick. Let's find our next one, done for you. That has a blueprint, so we'll take the text here, done for you, and we'll go ahead and replace the image here, done. And then finally, we have use this, not that. So we're gonna go here, use this, not that, and take this content here, paste this plain text, and replace this image with a checklist, which I think is here. Here you are. Bada bing, bada boom. So let's take a look at our alignment real quick here. So let's just save our work and hit the preview button and see what we have so far. All right, so far we're looking pretty good. We have a lot of padding here, a lot of spacing here. So maybe we're gonna go and try to tighten this up a little bit. But we have our top area. The image here is much smaller than what rendered with Breezy. And that's kind of just an interesting thing to note, because the content size is still the same. What's actually happening here, and this was in the, you can check out the Breezy tutorial as well. Breezy is actually kind of exploding or spreading out the size of this image beyond its natural size. And Thrive is respecting the fact that this image is only so many pixels and is not making it any bigger than it needs to be. So I actually have to give points to Thrive for how they're handling the image there on that section. You know, one thing that we did miss to do on this guy, let's go back to our editor, is we wanted to add a background image that had a lot of transparency here. So what we're going to do is go to our background style and add an image. And we're going to want to choose an image here, and let's take this guy. And this has a lot of transparency. You can see there's a little icon on the top left, but some transparency throughout. And ooh, creates a lot of fuzziness here in Thrive. I wonder why that would be. If we move the color on top, this is really cool, that almost like a Photoshop layer where you can change which part of your background has priority. So here you can see that the image is on top, the color is below. So the only color you're going to see is the color that is over a transparent part of the image there. So I'm not quite sure why. Let's go ahead and take a look at our options here. So the image is a stretch. If we go to default, interesting. So if I look at the image size here, I'm just going to take this image and show you what it is we're playing with. The image, I want to find the dimensions, details. The dimensions are 1920 by 799. So 1920 pixels. That should be plenty large to go across the entire screen here. What I wonder is why does it almost compress it and then stretch it out so it makes this fuzzy icon? Because here's how it should look. So this image is plenty full width. I mean, I'm recording right now a 720p screen. This is a 1920 icon, so you see the clarity of the image even when you scroll in a little bit. That's interesting. So I don't have any answers on why Thrive is doing this particularly today, but that is what it is trying to do. Interesting. That's going to be some points off of Thrive a little bit. All right, but that's what we have. What we also wanted to do was take a look at these columns here and adjust the maximum width. So we have the minimum column width, minimum height. What we want to do is the width. Instead of being a maxed width, we want to kind of, let's say we only want it to be 800. So tighten it up a little bit and we'll align it centered. Now here's where there's no way to easily copy and paste the styles of this. So we'll actually take that 823 and bring it down here, go to these columns and width 823 and center. So now if we save and preview, you can see, I don't know what's going on with that fuzziness there, but overall it's working pretty well. And now we've tightened this up significantly. Okay, looking good. Let's move on to the next section. And the next section is going to be headline and some playing with margins with an image in the middle of a 3-column layout. So let's do our headline. And we'll centerline this. And we'll say, let me just get the text here. Paste this plain text. Now here, what I do like about this is that it doesn't go the full width. So let's go ahead and adjust the maximum width of this area here. So to do that, we're going to want to go to our layout and position. And again, width, we're going to say, not full width, again, maybe about there, 750, and centerline that. And let's make this bold typeface. Looking good so far. Again, I want to have a little more white space here between these different sections. So let's go here to our layout and give some padding here. Now here you could do padding or margin. They essentially do the same thing, but I just chose padding for that one there. Okay, so we have our next section set up. Let's move on to our 3 columns. Let's take this text. And we're going to do 3 columns with text, image, text. Let's first pull in our paragraph text. So here you see, I did that intentionally, of pulling in the paragraph because it shows you sometimes the spacing is just a little bit weird. So we'll take that, maybe add one more space here. We're going to want to pull an image in to the right of it. Play with my mouse there and get it just right. And let's take this image, pull that guy in, and then finally let's just duplicate that paragraph text and pull that to the right here. So now we have a similar effect of what we're looking for. Let's add a little bit of padding at the bottom of this to pull this content down. And similarly, let's pull some padding down here. So this kind of comes similar to this layout here of being in the middle. Let's adjust the text here. Take this text, come through and just paste. Oops. We'll do paste as plain text. Now what I could also do on this one, let's try a different option here. Let's go back to the single pixel of padding here, and under the column settings, I believe I should be able to align just this column in the center. And I cannot. Okay, so what I did originally was correct, which was simply adding padding to it to bring it about halfway down, which is, you know, we're eyeballing here, but that's good enough for what we're trying to do. And so now we have the next section completed. Really not struggling much at all with building with Thrive. There are certain things I've just learned over time to be aware of, but once you're with it, it's an easy builder. So we'll add another heading below. We'll call this latest posts. Make that bold, And again, let's give some margin this time just to be a little different. To bring that down, give some white space, and we'll just put a blog roll here called posts, isn't it? Post grid, there you are. Pull this guy down below the header. Apologies for the voice, I've been getting over a heck of a cold recently. Okay, so we have our blog post here, and in similar builds, in previous builds, I didn't really worry too much about styling this because these are blank websites, they're dummy websites. You can do all the styling you'd imagine though, changing the padding, the layout, the margins, the drop shadow. You can actually do a lot of styling here where you can change the shadow here, an inner shadow or an outer shadow. A lot of options here on the post grid. Alrighty, so we have our post grid completed here. So the next section we're going to want to build is answers to your questions. And so let's go ahead and knock that guy out real quick. To do that one, we're going to want a background section. And this is a really useful block for almost anything you're building in Thrive. We'll go ahead and stretch this to fit the screen again. And let's see if in our background styles, if it's remembering. Finally, it remembers our color here, which is great. So now we have our background color. We want answers to your questions. So let's make a heading. And now I don't want this to go to the bottom. I actually want to drag it inside the background section, and we'll centerline that. All right, looking pretty good. And instead of adding padding or margin to the header itself, I want to go up to the background section and add my white space there. And so to do that, let's just drag this down a little bit, give some room for that to breathe, maybe about 100 there. And then similarly at the bottom, add some space there. That looks pretty good so far. So now let's see here, we've got a 2-column layout here with a header and some text. Let's go ahead and add that background image as well though, to see how that looks. So in our background style of this background section, we're going to add an image, and it's this image here. So here we go, insert into post, and the same darn thing is happening where it's stretching it out. It doesn't need to stretch this out, Thrive. It's a large enough image to not be pixelated. So no answers for you guys here, but that's a frustration for me. All right, so we'll apply this. And now let's go to our main options and our typography options. And once again, change the text of everything inside here to white. And I think I can even, if I wanted to get nuts, I could change everything inside here to bold. I won't, but that would be kind of a useful thing to be able to do there as well. I do want to make this bold. And then what we'll do here is, let me just show you a different way of building. Let's go ahead and put the 2 columns in directly. So now we have 2 columns and we'll be able to build it directly in there. And I'll kind of take a different style in general here. So instead of just building the elements individually, I'm going to make a content box inside this column. So now we've got, this is where Thrive can get a little bit kind of geeky and a little bit hard to follow. You've got a content box inside column, background section. So there's a lot of different places for you to do layout, adjustments, and changes. So just buyer beware. When you're with Thrive, you have to start thinking the way that they do when you're designing your pages here. So we have a content box here, and the reason why I'm doing that is I want to be able to easily duplicate the content that I'm building. So let's say we want to make this an H3, and looks like I just got lazy on this build where I only took an individual item and didn't take all the individual questions. So we'll say, who is John Whitford? And then let me just do one here. Let's do a plain text below the heading. So it's below the heading, but it's still within that content box here, which is what I want. And we'll go ahead and just take this content here and paste as plain text. Okay, looks pretty good. So now that we have this content box is kind of created the way that I want it to, that's a little bit too much padding here. So let's go ahead and see why we have padding at the bottom of that text here. So if I look at line height, I can see here that my line height is a little bit funny on the header. So if I want to make this 0.8, it doesn't really get me where I want. So what I could do is just kind of work through it by putting negative margin. But if you start getting into this territory of trying to make things closer like this, you can get yourself in trouble when it comes to mobile responsiveness. For example, if we take a look at how this, we'll need to do some work on mobile responsiveness anyways, won't we? Because that's not looking too good. So let's build this in desktop, and then we'll come through and look at it on mobile as well. Okay, so we have our first section built out. Now what we'll do here is look at our content box and duplicate this. Let me go back here. What's going on here? There's a content box here, and I want to do, oh, you know what? Oh, this is frustrating. So I'm selecting the content box, but when I hover over to hit the duplicate button, it will actually try to duplicate just the header itself, which is not very fun. So there we go. So we've found it, we've nailed it right on the head there, and then let's do that a couple more times. Oof. There we go. All right, so I've duplicated it 4 times, and then we can take this content box and hopefully, oh man, this is a bit of a frustration. Move that over and then go to this content box and again, try to find it just right. Boom, move it over here. And now we have roughly the design we were hoping to achieve. Answers to your questions, our very stretchy, blurry background there, and then our content here. Okay, let's go ahead and just take a look at how this is shaping up so far. Let's save our work and hit the preview button. Okay, so not too bad so far, what I love. Looking good. A lot of space here, but this is really a factor of the theme. If I wanted to, as you can see, it is stopping at some points, adding more padding here as I go, and that's just because the default settings of Astra give you a lot of padding on the pages, a lot of container width. And here's a section we just built. Okay, let's move on to the next section here, which is going to be our last section, which has 3 columns, some social sharing follow icons, a book that you can download, and a sign up form for it. So let's do that. That should not be too hard, with Thrive being very easy with things like this. Let's go ahead and go below the background section, do a 3 column. In the first one, we want to have that header, which is going to say follow me, follow income mesh. And then underneath here, we want some social sharing icons. So I just type in SOC and that pulls it up. And now here's where Thrive has its own style, which is great. I'm all a fan of it. So let's say we don't want Twitter. And also you notice, I don't think, here we got Facebook and YouTube. I don't know if I can do YouTube on this. I'd have to custom build it. Well, let's do it. So to do that, so because Thrive doesn't give you all the social networks we want, we're going to have to actually build them as icons. So what we'll do is let's build just a regular icon. Put that below here and search for YouTube. And that's the icon that we want. And let's go ahead and put it in the color that we want. Boom. And then we can make this, we can add an animation to it and give it a link. So it acts just like a button, like the social share icons would be. And then okay, it looks like it wants us to give. So let's just go ahead and do https youtube.com and open a new tab. Good. So now we have a button here, and you could even do hover options as well and change, for example, the icon color, and maybe you want to make it lighter. Let's do that by increasing or decreasing opacity. So now you see you've got a nice little icon here, and then if we duplicate, we'll be able to take this icon here and simply change it to Facebook, and maybe this guy. Okay, so now our next struggle is they're on top of each other. So we can make them right to left, but that's not really what we want to achieve, is it? Now it's putting that column here, and what we really want is a content box where we'll be able to kind of design this itself and then pull that content box in someplace else. So let's go ahead and we're getting a little bit geeky here and trying to make this do what we want it to do. So we're going to take this Facebook, put it here inside the content box, take the YouTube, put it there next to it inside the content box. And now we have what we want, but what I really want to do here, let's go ahead and take a look at these columns and say wrap columns. And what this is going to do is allow them to kind of be next to each other and just kind of live happily together. So we'll take this content box and let's see if we achieve what we want here. If we pull this underneath, it is still not doing what I want it to do. Let's take a look at these columns. And if we reduce this down, okay. So I'm making the minimum column width as minimal as possible, and that should be allowing it to stay together. But if we go look on mobile, okay, we're still looking good. And here, it's stacking. So this is one where I think good enough is going to have to be good enough. I know you could customize it and get it exactly how you want to, but I'm not exactly a Thrive expert. And the goal of this is to see, can I get what I want accomplished? And this is roughly what I'm looking for here. We could obviously change some of the padding here, get rid of some of that, bring it closer to the top here. Okay, not the best, but it's good enough, and we'll take it. So let's move on to the next section here, which is just the image of that book. Pull that in, take this book here, and insert it into the post. And centerline it. And the last section here is going to be an email capture form, which let's just see. Okay, I didn't add a whole lot of content here, so let's just do email, or I think it's opt-in. What do they call it? Lead generation. They all have their different names for these things. Let me remove these columns. We're done with these guys here. Okay, now we could style this as well. Let's just do some basic styling, edit the form elements, and change the master color here to our branded color. And that's enough for now. And so here you'd be able to connect this to a ton of services. They have, I mean, a ridiculous number of API connections with Thrive because it's connected to Thrive leads as well. So, I mean, anything you're using, they probably have it there. But we'll skip that for now. And let's just take a look at our design here. And then we'll have to do some double checking with mobile responsiveness because I'll be honest, that's one of the big challenges I have with Thrive is their mobile responsiveness. Not that they're not responsive, it just takes so much work to get it to look how you want it to do. So in general, we're passing, we're getting what we want, the effects we want to achieve. But as we start to make this screen, let's say like a tablet size screen, this is probably tablet size screen, you'll notice that this background section is entirely up against the wall here. There's zero padding there. I don't like that. You can see how it's stacking the best way it knows how, which is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's okay. You might wish it could. Let me get this out of the way here. You might wish that it could. You might wish that this could go, just 2 columns all the way down, but it's okay. They're 2 different column blocks. And then here, as it scrolls down, it's looking pretty good here. As we go all the way down to the minimum width, you'll see it's maintaining. This is one of my frustrations. Here on the white sections where there's no background section set up, it's maintaining that minimum padding where it gives you a little bit of breathing space between the edge of the screen and the side here. You can see there on the text easily. But as soon as we go to a background section where we actually set the color there, it's like it doesn't respect the side of the wall. So here this is directly up there against the side. You're gonna have to adjust these manually. So let's do some of these just to show you the honest kind of frustration that exists with Thrive sometimes. So what we'll do here is let's bring this back to normal size, and we need to start adjusting our mobile responsive padding sections on all of our colored background sections. So what we'll do is we'll head up to this one, and we'll see here that. All right, for layout and position, when we make our adjustments, we actually are going to be able to go into the mobile sections here and make these adjustments here. So what I want is, let's just say a minimum of 15 padding on each side. It's not too much to ask, is it? So that'll pull that in. And then down here, for this section here, we also have the same problem. Let's give it 15 padding. You could create a symbol or a template that will pull this in each time, but now you can't use the actual element. You have to pull in your symbols every single time. So not the best solution, but that wasn't too much work to make those a little bit more padding friendly there. Now if we go to mobile, we see it did maintain that 15 pixel setting. Let me just show you that. So we have 15 pixels on each side here. So we're looking pretty good. Maybe I made too much of a fuss, but when you've made very complicated sections, it is a bit of a frustration. So now let's take a look here at the columns here. I want to see if we can figure out how to get these guys to display side by side nicely. It's not looking like it's going to agree with us here. So we'll go ahead and just say that's one of those where it's just going to take a lot of tinkering to get it just right if you care about it to be just right. So now let's go ahead and exit this page and see how it looks. Pretty good. So let's publish this bad boy and start running some speed tests. So we'll say update and view the live page. So now we have our URL, We are a live website. Let's go and run 5 speed tests using GT metrics. And we'll compare this to all of our previous results here. So now we're going to start building out our speed test log here. And let's go ahead and put in our URL and see how this performs. So we're using the same assets, the same images, the same icons, and trying to achieve the same design elements in general. So we should have a close enough approximation. We're also using the same root domain. So we're using conversionsandbox.com for all of these, and we're just making a different installation on a subfolder. So this is running the same host, same package. This is as standardized as we can make it. Okay, very good result. So 99% page speed score, 1.4 second load time. Nothing to complain about there. Let's go ahead and log it. Wow, 0.9 seconds fully loaded. Incredible. Let's do test number 3. 0.7 seconds. This is unreal. Great job, Thrive. Let's go through and do test number 4. 0.7 again. Wow. And test number 5. I think we might have a winner here when it comes to page speed. And 1.3, just to give us back to reality a little bit. Let's just take a look at the waterfall here. So, a good 30% of that time was just getting the URL. But then when it comes to loading, it was extremely fast. So impressive. I wonder if part of that is maybe they're doing additional compressing on the images here, because you remember we had that a bit of that blurry background stuff going on there. So if we look at the average of the 5, right now neck and neck tied is Astra and Gutenberg, tied with Thrive and Thrive Architect, and Astra right around 1 second flat, compared to Divi at 2.3 seconds and Breezy at 1.6 seconds. So the last one to find out on a speed perspective is going to be Elementor, and that video will be coming shortly. So here are some of my feelings. On build speed, Thrive is a very fast builder. If you're doing very basic things and kind of adding content through, it's a very nice user experience when it comes to the building. So we'll go ahead and give that a 7.5. I do think it's faster. It's definitely faster than Gutenberg was, and it's a little bit faster than Breezy. The challenge is when it comes to ease, and I think Thrive sometimes suffers with the ability of giving you too much customization, too many options, because we were building a pretty simple homepage in this example here, and you could see that we even had to go back through and look at tablet and mobile for multiple sections. And imagine for a long sales page having a lot of little tweaks you have to do. The social sharing icon, some things like that shouldn't be so difficult to do. And there are some things that Thrive makes you work a little hard to get it exactly right. So I'm going to say it's not much harder than Gutenberg. Let's give it a 7 on build ease, because all these are very good, right? Like you're not going to go wrong with any of these, honestly. End result page speed, I have to give it a 10. It's the exact same as Gutenberg. You can't ask for better, especially running on a shared hosting setup. So if we do our average here, Thrive is extremely high. There are some intangibles you have to take into account when you're selecting your page builder, though. Let me tell you something about those right now. So Thrive is an extremely powerful conversion optimization plugin. That's their whole focus. Is they allow you to set up split tests directly in the editor, where you can go through and duplicate a page and change the headline or change the entire design. And they do that with the Thrive Optimize kind of companion plugin to Architect. And that works really well. The challenge is that will obviously increase your page load speed, because it's doing some additional logic to decide what page to deliver to your audience. But it can really increase your ROI if you're doing strong split testing and trying to really market your funnels. So that's a positive. The downside to it is Thrive is not the most open to outside developer support and contribution, putting that as politically as possible. So there's other plugins that have tried to work with Thrive, WP Fusion, some of the other developers who want to develop additional functionality for Thrive. But Thrive, it kind of acts like Apple. They live in their little walled garden. They give you the solution they give you, and it's kind of all, not all or nothing, but it's very specifically Thrive focused, which is good. It creates a level of control, but the challenge is that I've found a lot of plugins having conflicts with Thrive plugins. Caching plugins. If you go to the Facebook group for the Thrive support, it is there are some adventures when you go in with Thrive. You're going to have some challenges here and there. It's just part of the growing pains, which can be a negative there. Other like Divi has a lot of support, a lot of third-party additional functionality. So if you want functionality with Divi and it doesn't exist natively, you can go and create that. You can easily get somebody to create a third-party plugin that connects into Divi. The same is not necessarily true for Thrive. So this video is running a little bit long. I'll go ahead and cut it off at this point. Ultimately, Thrive is a great builder. If you're looking for all the tools that are within the Thrive Themes membership, check them out. This should show you that it can do a lot of great things, and they're really increasing their build out, their functionality recently. If you want more details about that, I'll link some other of my videos about Thrive in the description below. If you're interested, go ahead and give them a spin for 30 days with incomesh.com/Thrive membership. That'll give you access to all their plugins for a very reasonable fee. They also have their Thrive theme builder coming out, I think soon. It's got to be coming out soon because the competition's really heating up when it comes to the theme space. So again, I'm John from incomesh.com. My goal is to help you find the perfect tool for your next project. And until the next video, when we wrap up this series with Elementor and Astra, be well. Talk to you soon.